Hi, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to look into data warehousing in AWS. We are going to set up Amazon Redshift serverless, and Amazon Redshift is the service that helps us to create data warehouses on AWS. By serverless, it means that AWS is going to be maintaining the data warehouse, and it is not also provisioning of nodes, and maintenance of the underlying infrastructure is done by AWS. What we are going to do is just to define the configurations the way we want it to be, or to look like, or the way we want our warehouse to function. So let's get started. My expectation is that you have AWS account already. If you don't have, please create one AWS account, and we go. So once you're on AWS, these are my recently visited services, but you can also search for Redshift here. So I have Amazon Redshift, and then select Amazon Redshift. You will meet this interface. You can try creating serverless Redshift, or you can come here and say serverless. So one of the two options. So select that. So there are two ways you can follow to create your serverless instance. You can decide to use the default settings. So you select here configurations. I want to configure it to the default settings. So with the customized settings, you need to understand two terminologies. One, we have namespace, and we have work group. The difference is that namespace is your data and work group is your compute. Redshift serverless separates compute from your data so that you are able to scale or accessing services in AWS. So I'm going to associate it with an IAM role that I already have. This one here, and this one has complete access to S3. And then we are going to look into encryption. By now, if we leave the cluster to be created with this configuration, it is going to use AWS key for encryption at rest. We can decide to choose our own keys for encrypting data in at rest and in transit. And for now, I think it's just better we just leave AWS to give us the key so that it can encrypt and so on. So we just leave AWS to maintain the key for us. Then about the work group, we are going to define the name of the workbook group. So this is daily codes. The capacity, this is a trial or a test, or we're just learning. So I'm not going to choose a very big capacity for base. Let's try 4. And this is 4 Redshift capacity units, RPUs. And this increases in the increments of 8. That's what you're saying, 4, 8, 16, and so forth. And it increases based on the capacity that you need. For now, we don't need a lot of capacity for our compute. You can increase this as your compute increases. Then we are going to track. So Redshift, we've said that it is being maintained by AWS. We can need it to be updated based on the new versions of Redshift that AWS puts out. And we can decide we'll be trailing with the version closer to the latest version, workgroup version, or the current. I'm going to leave it with current. Then here with the IPv4, how to access it, we can decide to use dual stack. That means that we are accessing it through IPv4 or IPv6, or we use IPv4. For now, let's leave IPv4. We can use IPv6 if you want to use it, if you have configurations on your networking to use IPv6. We have the VPC, so the virtual private cloud. We're using the default one, and I'm going to use the public security. The public subnet with this default security group. Then we are not going to enable SSL. The SSL for now we are going to disable it. Obviously, in these configurations, we are not able to disable the SSL. We can only disable it once the instance is created. But yes, we are going to disable it so that we can access it through Table Plus, for example. In a later video, we shall enable SSL, and I will show you how to connect to Redshift using SSL, and that will be security around Amazon Redshift. But for now, we just want to create a cluster and see how it works. So we leave that. We are not going to turn on VPC routing for now, and that will mean that any traffic to another AWS resource might go through the internet. But if you want to restrict the traffic to be only through AWS networks, then you can turn on VPC routing so that if you're getting data from S3, the data passes only through AWS and doesn't pass it through the internet. So yeah, this is what we have. Let's save the configuration. It's going to take some minutes for this to complete. Once it's back, once it completes, we'll be back. Right, so the configuration is complete and the serverless Redshift is now up. So let's continue. We have this interface. It is showing us namespace. We can maybe refresh. And now we can see the namespace and work groups. We have Dalicode's namespace. It is available. We have Dalicode's work group and it's available. So the next thing we need to do is to connect to this Redshift instance and run queries. I like using Table Plus. You can also just connect directly through the browser, but that doesn't give you an experience of an analyst, for example, who's going to be using the warehouse. So we are going to use Table Plus to connect to this to give you the proper experience of what an analyst will be feeling. Because if you were to connect to this, let me just open that. I can just go here and say query data and open using the query editor. This will be straightforward. You will connect directly, and then I already have like some queries here. You can load your database here and give it. So let me say federated user. Let's use database username and password. The database we have is dev. Remember the username was Dalicodes, and then the password was, I'm going to show the password, DD, not FF, DD, where is DD? DD 11 dot and then create connection. So this is possible and it is very straightforward. Our database could be listed. That is comma. Let's try again. This is dot create connection. Yeah, we are now connected to the database. We can see the dev database here. It's straightforward and you can run queries. For example, I can say what is the current database. So select current database. And when we run this, it's going to show us dev. Yep, works. I think the errors that we were seeing was because this interface was open for the previous Redshift instance that I deleted while trying out for this tutorial. But you can see once you're here, you already have your Redshift instance ready, and you can easily connect to this as a data engineer. But this is not you're not the only person who's going to be using this product. You will need analysts who are going to be using this, and they'll be using different IDEs, not this IDE that is provided. So for you to have an experience the same as theirs, you will need a different IDE. I'm going to use Table Plus for this. So we're going to create connection. I'm going to say Amazon Redshift, create, and this is going to be the name. I can just call it Dali Codes serverless Redshift. And then our host, the host will be gotten from the work group. So we go to, this is namespace. Let's go to work group is here. And then we get the endpoint, that's the host. But I'm going to get up to where there is .com. So from the beginning up to .com. Copy that. Paste it here. Paste. The port is 5439. Username is dalicodes. The password is dd11 and ... Then the database name is dev. We don't need SSL, so we're going to disable SSL mode. But before we test this, we also need to disable SSL mode from here. From here, so you can see the SSL is enabled. We're going to edit, and then we're going to turn off SSL. And also we're trying to access Redshift publicly. That means we need to turn on publicly accessible. So turn on this. If you want it to not to be accessed publicly, you may want to use a VPN. That means that you will need an AWS VPN, and then you will set up Redshift within a private subnet in VPC. We shall see that in a future video, but for now we want to just create and see how to connect. So publicly accessible, and then we are going to save these changes. Can't update multiple configurations at the same time, so let's update one. Let's make it publicly accessible first. We save changes. I'm going to refresh, then check. Okay, let's turn on publicly accessible. Save changes.
Yeah.
Can't update multiple. Is there any other thing? Oh yeah, this was enabled here. This is turn on publicly accessible. Save changes. Yep, so it is updating. Let's wait until it finishes updating. Great. So if I refresh, then we check here, we can see that it is publicly accessible. Now the next thing is we're going to disable the SSL. So go to edit and disable SSL, save changes. Right, so that is done. So now we can see, let's go back to this configuration. SSL is disabled and we have turned on publicly accessible. So now we can continue here. Remember, we have put the host, we've put the port, we've put the user and the password. We have disabled the SSL, and we can test and see if it connects. So here it's saying the server, this failed password authentication for user. Okay, let's type the password again. So dd11 dot dot. Yep, that was the password. Test. Yeah, it's now green. It has passed. Let's connect. Yeah, so now we are connected to this. We are not seeing much. We can try. We only have one schema here. There are no queries and so forth. So let's write some queries. The first thing is, let's check the database that we're in. So select current database. Current database. Then run current. We can see it is dev. We can also check the user, who is the current user. So select current. So if I run that, you can see the current user is that codes. We can do much more. So for example, we can decide to create a table. So I can create an employees table. Create table. Create table employees. And what I want with this table will be 2 columns. We can say an ID, which is an integer, and the name of the employee. And that will be maybe a variable character. Okay. And we can say, oh yeah, that is our table. So when I run this, run current, the table is created. Now we can add some values to this table. It is employees. I'm just going to copy this. Insert into employees, values, and I just want to insert 2 employees. So the first one, ID 1, will be Jeff. And ID 2 we can call that one Elon. So we run this. This is a comma. Run current. Yeah, we've inserted 2 rows into employees. We can now check employees, select all. So let's run current, and we can see Jeff and Elon. Right, so that is how you create a Redshift warehouse on AWS. To be specific, serverless Redshift. There are things that I've just glazed over, more so for networking and security. I think that one needs its own tutorial and its video, because we're going to work with VPCs and subnets, and we're going to work with the VPNs. So that will need its own video. The next thing I want to show you now is just to remove these resources so that it doesn't cost you much. As you will need to first remove the work group, then you'll remove the namespace. So go to work group, action, delete work group, and then you type delete. As I'm deleting this, I am a community builder for AWS. AWS gives me a credit of $500. I would like to teach you as much as possible about AWS. So put in the comment whatever you want to learn about AWS, most importantly in data engineering. Right, so we have deleted the workgroup. Let's go back here, and now we have the namespace. I'm going to delete also the namespace. So action, delete namespace, delete. We are not taking final snapshot. We're not going to keep snapshot when you're deleting because we don't have any data and we haven't used this namespace in production. So I'm just going to delete it. Right, so it has deleted successfully the namespace. So we can go back to Redshift. If we go to serverless, it will want us to create another Redshift serverless. So we don't need to. Hopefully you have learned something. If you have learned something, give us a thumbs up. If you have any question, clarification, leave a comment. Subscribe if you want to learn more about AWS or data engineering, or just subscribe for funsies. It's free. Until next week, Saturday, take care and keep learning.